In the past few videos, I've defined general operations and talked about some of their properties. So now let's look at some actual examples that are a little different than our standard addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Let's let a star b be equal to the absolute value of b minus a. And I want to know, is this an operation on non-negative integers? The first question is it always defined? And the answer is yes. If you give me two non-negative integers, I can definitely subtract them and take their absolute value. Is it unique? And the answer is yes. A subtraction is unique and an absolute value is unique. The last one is it closed? So a and b have to be non-negative integers. Is the absolute value of b minus a always a non-negative integer? Well, b minus a might be negative, but as soon as I take the absolute value, I'm going to move back into non-negative integers. So this is an example of an operation on the non-negative integers. Now let's look at x star y equal to xy plus 1. And we're going to define this on the real numbers. So the first question is it always defined? If you give me two real numbers, I can definitely multiply them and add 1. So yes, it's defined. Is it unique? Well, yes. Multiplying two numbers gives me a unique output, and adding 1 will give me another unique output. Is it closed? Well, if I multiply two real numbers, I get a real number, and if I add 1, it's still real. So yes, this is an operation. I now want to look at some basic properties of this. First question, is it commutative? Well, x star y is equal to xy plus 1. We know multiplication is commutative, so I could rewrite this as yx plus 1. And this is the definition of y star x. So yes, it is commutative. Is it associative? Well, in this case, I need to look at x star y star z. Well, y star z would mean yz plus 1. And then x starred with this would mean we would multiply x by the thing in parentheses. And then add 1. So this would be xyz plus x plus 1. Let's consider the other direction. X star y star z. Well, starting with what's in parentheses, that would be xy plus 1 star z. And this means multiply the thing in parentheses by z. So we have xy plus 1 times z. And then add 1. So this would be xyz plus z plus 1. And these are not the same thing. So this is not associative. My next question, does it have an identity? So I want to know, is there an e such that x star e is equal to x? Well, x star e would mean xe plus 1 equal to x. And now I essentially just want to solve this for e. I can subtract 1 from both sides. And then I can divide by x, and I get 1 minus 1 over x. Well, this actually tells me that there's not an identity. Why? Well, the identity should not depend on a value for x. Here, if you give me a different value for x, I'm going to give you a different value for e. An identity should be set. So, for instance, if you give me the number 2, then I would need to multiply 2 star 1/2 to get 2. However, if you give me 3, I would need to do 3 times 2/3, or 3 star 2/3 to get back to 3. And so this gives us an issue. Identity should be a set number that should not depend on x. And since we don't have an identity, we cannot define inverses. What about x star y equal to x to the y defined on R? So the first question is it always defined? Well, no. For instance, -2 star 1/2. This would mean -2 to the 1/2 power, or the square root of -2, which is not a real number. So it is not always defined. Therefore, this is not an operation on the real numbers.